Welcome back to your way happy Bible study on CBN. Okay. I'm so glad to be back. I really am. And this is my passion, to study. I study. Um, and I want you to study too. We'll study together. Okay. We're going to start at Genesis chapter 18 and verse 13. Let's hit the ground running. Okay. And the Lord said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of a surety bear a child, which am old? She laughed. But Abraham laughed too, remember? He laughed. Where was it? Let's see. I remember seeing that he laughed too. In verse 14, is anything too hard for the Lord? At the time appointed I will return unto thee according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. According to the time of life, that would be like 9 months. Okay. In verse 15, and Sarah denied, saying, I laugh not, for she was afraid. She wasn't, I think she wasn't laughing um, in disbelief. I think she was laughing because she's thinking, uh, really? you know, and she had never, and she was thinking, shall I of a surety bear a child which am old? And she thought that, I think she was happy, but she was afraid because she laughed. She said, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And he said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. And the men rose up from thence and looked towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. In verse 17 of Genesis chapter 18, and the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. In verse 20, and the Lord said, Behold, the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous. I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. In verse 22, and the men turned their faces from thence and went towards Sodom. Now these two that are with him, these two that are with the Lord, are angels. Okay. And this was an angel of the Lord. This was not, when it says the angel of the Lord, what that means is that the Lord appeared in a human form, but that was not the same as when he was born into the body of our King, Jesus Christ, who is God the Father in an immortal flesh body. He was born in an immortal flesh body. And the men turned their faces from thence, this is 22, and went towards Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? And because he's thinking, well, my nephew Lot is there. And he's worried that Lot is going to be destroyed with the city. And so he's asking the Lord, wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked, that be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? Bravely spoken, isn't it? He's talking to God. He's saying, well, it wouldn't be right to destroy the righteous with the wicked. And he's saying, uh, shalt not the judge of all the earth do right? Very bravely spoken, isn't it? In verse 26, and the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. He's reminding himself and the Lord. He's saying, I'm nothing, and I'm speaking to God here. And then he says, peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, if I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. Verse 29. And he spake unto him yet again and said, peradventure there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there shall be 30 found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord. Peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, oh, let not the Lord be angry. He's continuing with this. And I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way as soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned unto his place. So the Lord is merciful and gracious. He will not destroy it if he finds 10. He'll spare the whole city for 10 righteous. Okay? He's very, very merciful and wonderful. Chapter 19 and verse 1. And there came 2 angels. We are, for you that have just joined us, we're in Genesis chapter 19, and we're starting at verse 1. And there came 2 angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them. So these 2 angels are coming. And these are 2 of the 3 men that visited Abraham. 1 was the Lord and 2 were angels. So these 2 angels come to Sodom at the evening. Lot was sitting in the gate. He sees them and rises up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house. He's wanting them to come home with him. And tarry all night and wash your feet. And ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly. He knows it's dangerous there in Sodom. And they turned in unto him and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house around, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us that we may know them. And I don't think they meant to get to know them by talking to them. These are very depraved people that live in the city of Sodom. And they want to hurt these 2 men and victimize them. Okay? In verse 6, and Lot went out at the door unto them and shut the door after him. So he goes out, shuts the door behind him, and he's talking to these people outside and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. And he's lying. He's lying to him because he's got his 2 daughters are married. He has 2 son-in-laws in that city. He said, behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. He's trying to get their thoughts off of these angels, and he's willing to sacrifice his daughters rather than allow anything to happen to these 2 angels. Although, the angels can defend themselves. I don't think Lot really knows that they're angels at that point. But anyway, he says, behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you. And do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Oh my gosh. They would have maybe even killed his daughters, but he is compelled to protect these 2 strangers. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. It's the laws of hospitality are very, very important to these people, to Lot, to the Jews. And God says, entertain strangers, for many have entertained angels unaware. You can entertain angels without knowing it. That means they look like us. And they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them. So they are about to attack Lot physically. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand, these 2 angels, and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut to the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness. These 2 angels did, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. These angels caused everybody outside that door to be stricken with blindness, so they can't see anything. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. In verse 14, and Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters. Well, there's verification right there. He's lying to those people, saying, I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Well, they're married. They're not virgins. But he's he's trying very hard to get these people, these wicked people outside, to get them to leave these angels alone. And anyway, in verse 14, and Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. His 2 son-in-laws didn't believe him. That's why they didn't get out of the city. In verse 15, and when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him. And they brought him forth and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, escape for thy life. Look not behind thee. Look not behind thee. Don't look back. Neither stay thou in all the plain. He says, don't just go out a little ways. You could just keep going. Escape to the mountain lest thou be consumed. So if they don't get to the mountain, they're going to be consumed with the city. In verse 18, and Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my Lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. He should have said okay instead of, oh, I can't escape to the mountain. Wah. In verse 20, behold, now the city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything until thou be come thither. Notice, they cannot destroy the city with those 4 children of God in it. Only 4. But they still cannot, even for 4, they cannot destroy the city with those 4 righteous within it. God will not permit it. Okay? They have to leave before the city can be destroyed. So he says, Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything until thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar, and the term Zoar means little. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. Do you know what this means? This means that other than those 4 children of God, every other person in the city was wicked, children of evil. They were all children of evil. God will not destroy a child of God. Only the children of evil. And that is why those 4 children of God had to escape. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities. And that which grew upon the ground, it's all toast. In verse 26, but his wife looked back from behind him. You know why? That's where her heart was, in the city. That's why they were living in the city in the first place, because she loved the city. She wanted to live there. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. She was warned not to look back. But that's where her heart was. She's, as they're running, that's where she wants to be. She wants to stay in the city. She wants to be in the city. That's where her heart is there in the city, instead of with her husband and her daughters, her family. So she looks back after she's told not to, and she is turned into a pillar of salt. And to this day, if you go to that area of the world over there, you can see the pillar that they say was Lot's wife. In verse 27, and Abraham gat up early in the morning. Gat. Wow. Abraham gat up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace, just huge black smoke coming from that direction. In verse 29, and it came to pass when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot dwelt. Now, Lot was Abraham's nephew, and very precious to Abraham. He left Ur of the Chaldees with Abraham. And Abraham loves him. It's his that's his nephew. In verse 30 of Genesis chapter 19, and Lot went up out of the Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar. And he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. So it's just Lot and his 2 daughters. The wife turned into a pillar of salt. In verse 31, and the firstborn said unto the younger, let me see what time it is here. Okay. Firstborn said unto the younger, if you have a sensitive stomach, this might be a problem for you. Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. So these 2 daughters of his who were married, their husbands perished with the city. They're saying they believe at this point that they are the only people left on the whole earth. They believe that. And the firstborn said unto the younger, our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. Seriously? I don't even know what to say to that. In verse 33, and they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down or when she arose. And these are children of God, okay? That's totally messed up, isn't it? In verse 34, and it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. So they're telling themselves he is the only man left on the whole earth. They believe that. Because, obviously they do believe it, because reekage, okay? Whoa. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. Carnage. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. Moab, now the Moabites, these are Jordanians, okay? This is where the Jordanians came from. And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Ben-Ami. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. And Ammon is the capital of Jordan, okay? So the descendants of Moab and Ammon dwell in modern day Jordan today. Chapter 20. Ready to go for it? Oh, we're down at the bottom of the hour, aren't we? When we come back from the break, what we'll do is dive into chapter 20, Genesis.